Crowhill here. Today we review an IPA and discuss women's suffrage. Hey, good to see you, Pigweed.
Good evening, Crowhill. How about some beer and conversation?
That sounds like a great idea. Fantastic. So what are we drinking?
This is an IPA, a small batch series from Dogfish Head.
Oh, those guys are usually pretty reliable.
Later.
Okay, I like that. Sounds good.
So what's on your mind?
Well, you know, I was in this business networking meeting one time that was 90% women.
Okay.
And somehow, we were supposed to be talking about business stuff, but somehow abortion came up. And somebody on the call said that men don't have a right to have an opinion on this. That only women have a right to have an opinion on abortion. Right. And that kind of raises the question, who gets to vote on what? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like, so if only women can vote on abortion, then can only men vote on war? I mean, you know, what?
Right.
Where do we draw the line on things like this?
Can people who don't own farms vote on policies that affect farms?
Exactly.
I mean, it gets a little...
How far does that go? Yeah, so it gets a little silly. So anyway, that's what I was thinking about. But what is this guy? I see a rabbit on the front.
Yes. This is a small batch series apricot.
Mm-hmm.
And it is 7% Indian Pale Ale with apricot puree and natural flavor.
I definitely taste the apricot.
Is that so?
Yeah.
All right, let me
definitely.
try that.
Yeah, that comes out pretty clearly. All right.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not usually a fruit beer kind of a guy, but that's actually not bad.
Yeah, I love those. As a kid, that used to be like our alternative snack was those little dried ears.
Dried things. Yeah,
yeah, I love those little.
They were pretty good. Yeah, yeah. No, this is surprisingly good. I usually don't like the crazy fruit beers, and we'll see if I like it when I'm halfway through.
Yeah, that's true.
But I like it. I'm still not quite sure why there's a rabbit munching a piece of a hop.
I know. I didn't even write. It's not like it came out at Easter or
right. Yeah. Well, maybe April.
Is it in the hopping part at the end or something?
I don't know. Well, anyway, okay. There we go. So, 19th Amendment. Which one was that?
So, suffrage.
Yeah.
I have a suffrage joke.
Okay.
Actually, not a joke. Have you ever seen the man on the street, or even worse? So a man on the street, you're like, okay, you don't know how dumb that person can be.
Yeah.
Then there's the man on campus. You're like, well, don't you have some expectations? For heaven's sake.
Man on the street, the person might only have a 5th grade education, but in college, they should at least know something.
So he went around and
on a college campus
asking young ladies
okay.
if we need to end women's suffrage.
Suffrage, like
because they don't know the term.
Yeah. Okay. Suffering. We should end women's suffering.
Of course, they did that suffrage test, which is a kind of a funny word.
Yes.
And what is it? Well, you know, I don't really have the.
I don't know the etymology.
I don't have the Webster's in front of me, but it has to.
I mean, people should know that women's suffrage refers to women's right. I mean,
suffragette. The word suffragette should mean something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just watch Mary Poppins, you know, and you'll see references to suffragettes. So.
All right. Where in the world did we have widespread women voting, like throughout history? Like, Ming Dynasty or the ancient Athens or where did we have most of the women voting?
Why don't we ask this question? Where did we have widespread voting? There was no, like, the whole idea of voting is yesterday. Yeah. Yeah. So
you had ancient Athens, so that is the inspiration. So that at least goes back to 4th century of BC. Yeah. So and that's where the founding fathers and a lot of people look to our ideas of democracy.
Yes.
And then I guess, but I mean after that, after the fall of Rome.
There wasn't much voting going on. Now, supposedly in the Germanic tribes, there was a custom of holding a thing, which was this collection of people from the tribe, and they would vote on what laws would affect them. The idea was that you had a say in the laws that you had to live under, and apparently women did have some right to vote, like in Viking society and in some northern German societies. So there was some voting going on then.
Yeah, and you had, Roman Senate, and it was kind of divided into houses, which later was emulated by the House of Commons and the House of Lords. So, there was some voting going on up there, but nobody had this idea that everybody needs to be voting.
Yes.
So even after the Civil War, and they extended voting to blacks, it was just the dudes.
Yes. So this idea that everybody needs to vote, like imagine you're going back to 1776, and you're talking to people in Philadelphia, and you say, should everybody in Philadelphia be able to vote?
Well, hold on. Does everybody agree that the voting system is a great thing? Yes, we all agree.
Yeah.
We like voting.
We all like voting. Now, should every single person in Philadelphia...
Every single person?
And they say, you mean that drunk right over there?
that guy?
That guy? You mean him too? Yeah. The guy who is constantly in the gutter?
We mean...
Do you mean the idiot over there who can't speak regular sentences?
No, we mean the people who have a genuine stake in the future of this project that we're involved in here.
And that was not an unnatural or unreasonable attitude to take.
And then so there was always there were qualifiers.
Mm-hmm.
This universal suffrage is the term for everybody over a certain age. But before that, the fact that you had qualifiers, I think, made sense.
Sure. I mean, we don't let felons vote, right?
Yeah.
So
in their minds, there was like property owners.
Yeah.
I mean, who's got
a stake,
who has more stake than property owners? Parents.
Yes.
So that family. So the fact that it was the head of the household.
Yes.
It wasn't just men. Almost always men.
Yes, actually, that's an interesting tangent to go down, because if you think of voting in terms of head of households, there were situations in the colonies where, yes, it was the head of the household, and in some cases, the head of the household was a woman, and she got to vote.
Yes, a widow who had property, who had money.
Exactly.
Then she represents the household.
Exactly. So when you had this concept of head of household voting, that was not just men; that was men and women. So, but the idea there was, what is the unit of society that you're trying to measure?
Yes.
Is it like you could say the unit is the town. You could say the unit is the household. You could say the unit is the individual. But there's no particular reason why you have to draw that line at any particular place.
Right.
Yeah.
But in their minds, especially, we have a country with a lot of land and more land than we have people. And we want to encourage private property. And
you also might not want to give a vote to the vagrant who's just wandering through.
Why would you?
Yeah. So you have some guy.
That's a sillier idea than looking back and going, well, it wasn't real democracy, because real democracy means one man, one vote.
Yeah.
Well,
so let's say you have a town.
Why do you get that idea? And B, are you sure that's the right way to go about this?
You have a town, and there's 500 houses in this town, and there's a thriving little town, and they have a democratic system. They allow people to vote, and then like this troop of gypsies come wandering in. And they just sort of, they're wandering in they come into your town. Do they get a vote on how you're going to do things in your town? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, right. Do they seem to have a commitment to the future of this town?
Yes. Do they have a stake?
Yeah, stake. Yep.
Yeah. And the answer is no. So the idea of limiting voting to people who have a stake, or limiting voting to a certain sort of representation, that's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not done with this one man, one vote thing, but let's get on to the ladies here.
Yes, okay.
So when does this, how does this thing even get started, and how does it pick up steam, and it all happens all at once?
Well, somewhat. So I want to go back to my point earlier that women voting was not unheard of in the American colonies.
Right.
It was not unheard of back in Germanic tribes, back in Europe, a fairly long time ago. So it's not as if it was only recently. But in terms of modern politics,
Yes,
the first time...
The suffragette movement.
Yeah, the first time was New Zealand.
Okay.
1893.
Okay. A little ahead of the curve here.
Yes. Then Australia, 1902, with some exclusions. Finland, 1906. Norway, 1913. Denmark, 1915.
So now they're coming fast and furious.
Yes. Canada, 1918.
So you had nothing for all of human history, but with exception, but not widespread nationwide.
Yes.
And here they come. Boom, 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 boom. What,
Yes.
Do you have any sort of psychological, sociological?
I would say yes. I would say it coincides with a transfer of thinking about things in terms of community and family to thinking about things in terms of individuals. Because once you make that adjustment, if you're thinking in terms of villages, communities, families, then farms, then you would be thinking one way. But if you're thinking in terms of individuals, you would be thinking a different way. So I think that was the big mental shift. Yeah. So once you have that big mental shift, all of a sudden people are saying, well, if we're talking about individuals, women are individuals too.
Yeah.
So we need to extend the right to vote to them. So you're right. Boom, 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 boom. Canada, Germany, United Kingdom, 1918. Some women. United States, 1920.
All right. So, but before 1920 is the official ratification.
Mm-hmm.
But the movement itself, obviously, it didn't start in
No.
1920. It started really before the Civil War.
Yes.
And
I think the reason it happened in 1920 had a lot to do with World War I. But anyway.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, the movement was older than that. And I would say, it's not like I've done a whole lot of study on this, but I would say that it really has to do with all these different revolutionary ideas that point to the rights of men.
Yeah, so let's go to the 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
Ratified in 1868, extends the Constitution to all citizens defined as males, and is guaranteed in 1970. In the 15th Amendment, in 1870, guarantees black men the right to vote.
Yes.
So now you got the ladies going, well.
Yeah. Well, this gets back to the promise of the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal.
Right.
So what was intended by that? Obviously, okay, now we're going to have to go back. We had the benefit of growing up in a world where when someone says all men are created equal, we realize that means all humans.
Yep.
And that when somebody says he, what they mean is a person.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, so all men are created equal means all humans, and it just took a little while for that to kind of bubble its way through the culture.
All right. So, in 1890, two groups merged to form the National American Woman Suffrage Association with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, a name you'll be familiar with, as the first president. So, the ladies get involved in the temperance movement.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this was really a woman-driven.
Well, that's going to get us to the anti-suffragette stuff. But yes, a lot of the social campaigns were driven by women. And there was this attitude before women had the right to vote. There was this attitude of women being independent and above / separate from politics, because they weren't tainted by politics. They weren't involved in the backroom deals. They weren't pushing a party. They were just pushing a moral view, right? So there was this strange kind of a concept of women as being sort of morally elevated and above those things.
Yeah. So when they're pushing politicians towards temperance and prohibition, they're like, you can't buy our vote.
Exactly. So the idea was that they were above all that, which gave them actually gave them a different kind of a standing. It gave them a
did.
stronger moral standing.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, we're not going to vote for you if you don't do this. It was, no, we're telling you that this is right from another perspective, which is actually a very interesting perspective.
It's a very strong, and something that the anti-suffragettes pointed to as, we're going to lose this with the vote.
Yeah.
So clearly, for generations, maybe centuries, women have been yearning for the right to vote, and the patriarchy has kept their thumb down on them.
Exactly. That's the mythology that we keep getting taught, that like men have been oppressing women all this time, and finally women are breaking free. That is such a lie. The anti-suffragettes were predominantly women.
Yes.
There was this whole group called the National Association Opposed to Women's Suffrage.
And it does seem, I get it. If you're thinking that's counterintuitive, I agree. It kind of is.
It sounds that way to modern ears. But at the time, there was women who were against giving women the right to vote.
Yes.
Now, obviously, there were some men against it also. But it was the idea that there were
progressive men.
Yeah. The idea that there were all these women longing, yearning to be free. Oh, if only I could vote, blah, blah, blah. That's modern mythology. It's not the way it was. It was a very small minority of women who wanted to get women the right to vote. And a lot of them were saying, no, I like it this way.
So did you see I was listening to Rachel Wilson, who's sort of anti-feminist writer, who his researcher, they had a referendum. It was a referendum as to whether or not they were going to vote on the right to vote.
Okay.
Right? So it's the pre-vote
to
the right to vote. And it came in so overwhelmingly against not wanting the referendum that Susan B. Anthony and Stanton made it so that women were not allowed to vote
on the question
of whether or not they should be allowed to vote,
because they knew they would lose.
They knew they would lose.
Yes, because women weren't in favor. This is another thing. It's like we have such a diluted concept of the past. Women were not in favor of women's suffrage, in generally speaking.
Well, you could look at it in a little bit on the Equal Rights Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what kind of monster would you have to be against the Equal Rights Amendment? Well,
right.
It's pretty much the same thing back then.
Yeah.
They're going, no. We're actually positioned pretty well in this situation, and if we just start becoming treated as equals to men, then they're going to apply the same rules and laws that they're not applying to us now.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work out for us.
Yeah. Yeah, so there were a lot of
rights and
responsibilities. There was also the ballot and the bullet go together. Like if you want the right to vote, then you got to fight in wars, and that was a big question at the time. It's like, okay, if you think you have the right to vote, then how come you don't have to go take up arms?
Also, there was a situation where you didn't necessarily commingle your funds. So that if you come in with money as a woman and you get divorced, you get to keep that money.
Yes.
If everybody's equal and all the funds are equal, then you're going to lose out on that.
There were all kinds of weird things going on. Men could go to prison because their wives got in debt.
Yes, that right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was the other one. Right. Yes, that the husband is responsible for the debts, and we're going to lose that. The other thing was you're going to create political division in the family.
Yes.
So the things that they predicted, they're like, oh, we're going to end up with high divorce rates. We're going to end up with single motherhood. We're going to end up. They were 100 years ahead of their time for all the reasons that they opposed.
Yes. So a lot of people thought, a lot of the anti-suffragettes thought that the family was the fundamental unit of society, not the individual.
Yeah.
So that a families should vote, not individuals should vote. So that's just a fundamentally different concept of how society is organized and the way it should work.
And the thing that Rachel Wilson pointed out was, in 100 years, we upset the way society has been organized since the beginning of history until the year 1900, and that feminism turned the whole thing inside out, and you can't expect that to go without consequences.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? I mean, you just can't have a radical change and go, you know what? Everything, all the changes are going to be positive from here on out.
Right.
And
well, it gets back to Thomas Sowell. There are no solutions, only trade-offs.
Yeah.
Like everything, it's not a question of this is right and this is wrong. It's a question of, if you're going to get this, you're going to get these good things and these bad things. And you're going to get this other thing, it's going to be these other good things and these other bad things. And that's just the way everything is. It's never a choice between light and dark. It's a choice between various combinations.
Is the trade-off worth it to you?
Yes, exactly. So one of the things that I find fascinating about a lot of these kinds of discussions, and it's the same sort of discussion you get when people say we have to have more women in the C-suite in a business, right? And they'll say, well, there aren't enough women CEOs, there aren't enough women
Partners
CFOs, all that sort of thing. So on the one hand, they'll say men and women are equal, but on the other hand, they'll say women bring a different perspective, right?
But so you're saying, it can only possibly be a positive perspective.
Yes.
So whatever these differences are, their contribution.
Yeah. So what you end up with is this idea that on the one hand you want to argue equality, but on the other hand you want to argue inequality.
Right.
You're trying to say, but it's a different approach to equality and inequality. It's like, on the one hand you're saying equality based on being a person, being a human being, that's like a civil equality. But then on the other side, you're making a different argument. You're saying you're bringing a different voice, a different perspective. So someone could be arguing at the same time that this group, it's kind of like all men are created equal, well, which is obviously not true from one point of view, but all men are created equal, that doesn't mean that this group over here doesn't have a particular gift or a particular attitude or perspective that can be applied in this situation. You see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying.
So it's kind of, from one point of view, it sounds like a contradiction, but it's really just a matter of looking at the question from a couple of different angles, I think.
When I was a kid, my mother voted Democrat, my dad voted Republican. They both went up and canceled each other's votes out.
Right, so why don't you just both say home? Yeah.
So, which is fine, but and that's been the case recently until very recently, when it's become extreme, especially amongst like under 30s.
Yes.
Right. So that gap, so let's just say that gap was 42-58 or 52-48. Men are Republican.
Yeah. Now it's changed dramatically, and it's especially changed among college-educated young people.
Yes.
So generally speaking, men vote more conservative and women vote more liberal, and that there's a lot of potential explanations for that, which we can get into, but that division between men and women is getting more and more pronounced.
Yes.
Where if you're taking just young people, the gap between men and women is dramatic.
Now it's 25 points.
Exactly.
Like
it's crazy. It's very high. Women prefer Democrat over Republican candidates by substantial margins, from as low as 4% in some cases to as high as 15%. But when you make that only college-educated young women, you're right, it jumps up to 25-30%. Yeah.
So let's talk about what would account for that. So let's just say that there actually are differences between men and women.
Yeah.
All right. So on the one hand, when it's convenient, anything you can do, I can do better. On other cases, well, we're very different and we bring very different things to the table. Okay. Yes. I'm thinking one of the things you're bringing to the table is maybe a communitarianism.
Yes.
As a mother, that you think that the proper distribution is an important thing in your life.
Yeah.
Compassion. Right, your dad's maybe the disciplinarian and the mother is the compassionate one. That's fine too. But once you take those two things and stick them into the political arena, gosh, boy, communitarianism sounds like a lot of other things that start with whatever.
Well, if you think about it, women are designed to nurture babies.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of ways, like in their voice, obviously their breasts. Women, they're smoother, they're softer. Women hear babies' cries better than men do.
I mean, when a kid falls down and skins his knee, and mom and dad are sitting there.
Yeah, mom is like, oh, and dad's
mommy,
like, yeah,
mommy
get
cares
over it.
more. She's softer. She smells better.
Yes. So women have a nurturing function that's more pronounced than it is among men. Now, what that leads to politically is that women tend to prefer expanded healthcare access, child care assistance, anti-poverty programs. They're more on the nurturing, taking care of people side.
They see the downtrodden as the victim.
Yes, well, they see them as their kids that they want to take care of. Yeah,
right. If you're doing poorly, well, you need to be helped. While rather stepping back and having a sort of a cold utilitarian view of how this is going to work, you just see from an individual level, and then you extrapolate that up into a national level, and that's how you end up with open borders and close the prisons and.
Yes. So women vote very differently than men. And what that results in is, if you were to look at what the result of the 2016 election would be if only men voted or if only women voted.
Okay, what would you get?
Okay. So 2016, that's Trump versus Hillary.
Right.
If only men voted, Trump 350, Hillary 188 in terms of electoral college.
Right, and states you're looking at about 10 or so.
The left coast goes for Clinton. New Mexico, Chicago, Illinois, and then New York and some of the northeastern states. Unfortunately, Maryland.
Yeah.
But the rest of the country is solidly red.
Solidly red.
Yeah. And then if you were to take what if men only voted in the 2024 presidential election? So if only men...
That's most recent.
Yeah, Trump-Harris. So
Trump-Harris.
Trump would get 358, Harris would get 180.
That's a bloodbath.
Yeah. And then if women voted, Harris would get 319, Trump would get 221. So men and women clearly vote very differently.
What is this? I don't know. Is with the speculation of about 2028, I guess it sort of demonstrates the increased political polarization.
Yeah.
That's been happening from 2016 to 2024. This is somebody speculating what 2028 will look like.
Yeah. Well, it seems
now what do we get? Now what do Democrats get?
Yeah, 54 votes if only men vote. Yeah. 54 electoral college votes.
And 1, 2, and maybe 5 states.
Yeah, and unfortunately, guess which one?
I guess it's old Maryland.
Maryland. Yeah, Maryland is a beautiful state. But crazy politically. So what we're getting at is this idea that men and women are equal. There's a sense of equality because we're all humans, that we have a certain dignity, we have certain rights, the same rights before the law, all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean we're equal in the sense of we judge things the same way, or we have the same opinions, or we look at issues the same way. Men and women clearly look at issues very, very differently. And
So in addressing my problem with the one man, one vote, universal suffrage,
Yeah.
That the man who employs 8,000 people and the man urinating himself in a cardboard box, both have the same say
vote.
on the future of the country.
Right.
Got a problem with that.
Yes.
But I realize that most systems are pretty difficult to deal with. So I got two options here. This guy is just like, in terms of the family as the unit, he says you could do both. The family gets one vote, and they also now get to individually vote. At least that would give an extra point to.
But how would you decide how the family votes?
Well, I don't know if they Indian leg wrestle or they're gonna have to do that on their own. They're gonna. But some people just say, because like I said, my system would be unwieldy and complicated. Business owner gets a vote. He also gets an extra vote for a homeowner. Extra vote for being baseball coach. You know what I mean? That guy.
To what extent are you involved in an asset to the community?
Yeah. I mean, but just psychologically in my mind.
The guy who lives in a tent out in the woods and doesn't do anything except beg, he doesn't get a vote.
All right, but you could just reduce it down to, and I think you could do this very simply, is if you file a W-2.
Okay. Yeah.
You get to vote.
Okay.
And so if you're on government dependents, if you're homeless in a tent, sorry. You're a drain on the system. You don't get to say about the future of the system.
Well, what was that quote? What was that quote that democracy will work until the people realize they can vote themselves largesse at the public trough?
Yeah. And we're on our way to now. It's just like which politician will give you the most stuff.
Yeah, if you go down to San Francisco, go down or downtown LA and say, okay, we're going to have a vote about whether we're going to clean up these homeless encampments. And all the homeless get to come in and say, no, we don't want you to clean up.
These guys say, no, we're going to give you free needles and free food, and you don't even have to get out of your tent.
Right.
And the other one says, we're going to clean this mess up and, make this a nice city again.
Right.
Well, who are they voting for?
Yeah. Yeah. So the question, I guess to me, the bottom line is, the question of who votes is not as simple as every human person gets to vote. I mean, obviously we have age restrictions, but we also have restrictions on if you're a felon or if you're, presumably...
If you're in an insane asylum?
Presumably if you're insane, you don't get to vote. So obviously we don't want every human person to vote. So the question then becomes, where do you draw those lines? And then the question becomes, what is your principle for where you're going to draw those lines?
A male can't vote if you don't sign up for selective service. Women don't have that restriction.
That's true. Yeah, so I guess
anyway,
let's go down to the bottom line. Was the 19th Amendment a good thing or a bad thing?
I'd rather not say. Well, yes, it's a good thing. Although from time to time, when I see the interviews on liberal college campuses, I get my doubts.
Yeah. So my reaction would be yes, it's a good thing, and I think the idea of every adult who's not a criminal or insane votes, I think that's right, but I think that the radical division we've seen between men and women's votes is a problem, but it's a different ailment in society that needs to be addressed.
Yes. Well, it does give one some concern.
It does give one some concern. So yes, women should vote, but we've done something wrong that so many young women are just nuts.
Yeah. Blue-haired septum. How about blue hair and septum?
No vote.
No vote.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to like this video and share it with your friends.